Hello everyone. Welcome to Film. Go Go Go. Titanic is an epic romantic disaster film directed by James Cameron and released in 1997. The film was an instant global sensation, and the love story of Jack and Rose, as well as the tragedy of the sinking of the Titanic, brought countless tears and box office success around the world. It won 11 Academy Awards and became the highest-grossing film in history for 12 years until Cameron's own sci-fi masterpiece Avatar surpassed it in 2010. Greatness comes from details, and today we will analyze in detail 45 interesting Easter eggs and trivia you didn't know about in Titanic. If you enjoy our video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. Easter egg 1: the movie was more expensive than the real ship. The actual Titanic was completed in 1912 at a cost of about $120 million, making it the largest ship in the world at the time and was known as the unsinkable ship of dreams. However, director James Cameron spent a total of $200 million to make the film Titanic, which was the most expensive movie at the time. During the filming, an artificial lake and studio were built, and the crew made 12 deep-sea dives to capture the footage. The long production process made the actors and crew exhausted, and the producers faced various challenges. The American magazine Variety even created a column called Titanic Watch to mock the film's excessive budget, predicting it to be a box office disaster. Cameron himself was almost on the verge of a breakdown. Fortunately, he persisted and created a great work for us. Easter egg 2: a plain opening scene. The opening scene of Titanic was finalized in the last editing stage because Cameron knew how different his film was, and he wanted to give the audience an unprecedented feeling from the beginning. The starting segment was conceptualized by the director after watching 20 different types of movies for 10 hours. Although it seemed plain, it left a lasting impression on the audience and largely determined the overall tone of the film. Easter egg 3: Heartthrob Leonardo DiCaprio. When casting the male lead, Matthew McConaughey, Chris O'Donnell, Billy Crudup, and Stephen Dorff were considered, but Cameron felt they were too old for the part of a 20-year-old. Tom Cruise was interested, but his asking price was too high. Cameron considered Jared Leto for the role, but Leto refused to audition. Eventually, 21-year-old Leonardo DiCaprio caught Cameron's attention. When DiCaprio came in for an audition, everyone in the room and many outside people rushed to see him. Women had a crush on him, exclaiming at how handsome he was. Cameron saw this and decided that DiCaprio was the right actor for the role. Easter egg 4: I am the Rose you're looking for. After reading the script for Titanic, Kate Winslet fell in love with the story and was determined to win the role of Rose. She wrote numerous letters to director James Cameron, even sending him roses with the message "I'm your Rose." However, Cameron initially wanted a more creative and unexpected actress to play the role of Rose, as he felt that Winslet's previous work in period dramas was not innovative enough. Some of the actresses Cameron considered for the role included Gwyneth Paltrow, Winona Ryder, Claire Danes, Gabrielle Anwar, and Reese Witherspoon. However, Winslet's persistence and talent ultimately won her the role. Easter egg 5: the underwater shots of the Titanic are real. When James Cameron met with Robert Ballard, the captain who discovered the wreckage of the Titanic, he was fascinated by the sunken ship and developed the idea for the movie. Production of the film began in 1995, when Cameron first dove to the wreck. Cameron spent far more time on the Titanic than the actual passengers did in 1912, visiting the site 12 times and spending 15 to 17 hours each visit exploring, filming, and experiencing the tragedy and injustice of the disaster. The underwater footage that he captured appears in the movie, making it even more realistic. Through these real-life videos, Cameron wanted audiences to understand that the story is not just a sad movie, but a real event that not everyone survived. Easter egg 6: the identical car. On the day of the Titanic's departure, a scene was filmed showing a red and gold car being hoisted onto the ship. The car was a 1912 Renault CB Coupe de Ville, and it was the same car that Jack and Rose later used for their intimate scene. According to the ship's cargo manifest, it was the only car on board the Titanic, belonging to an American named William Carter. Carter purchased the car while traveling in Europe with his family, and he survived the disaster, later demanding compensation from the White Star Line for his lost car, which was worth $5,000. Easter egg 7: the company that truly made the carpets. Most of the decorations seen in the movie were either reconstructed by White Star Line researchers or supervised by them to create a historically accurate portrayal. Cameron insisted on using authentic wallpaper, crystal chandeliers, and placing the White Star Line logo on small or inconspicuous items. He even convinced the British BMK Stoddard Company, which had originally supplied carpets for the Titanic, to make carpets for the film. The company created custom-made carpets based on the original designs, which can be seen in the main salon, corridors, and suites at the bottom of the grand staircase. Easter egg 8. Director cameos. Before boarding, the crew is helping the civilians who are about to board to check for fleas. The bearded man is actually the director James Cameron himself. He appears multiple times in the film, such as when Jack and his friends are searching for rooms and pass by a man wearing a black beanie, who is also the director. Later, during the third-class party, the director also appears in the shot. Even when Rose's fiancé is about to shoot Jack, the director passes by. He even wears the same hat during the sinking of the ship. Easter egg 9. Rose's hat. During the filming, Cameron had a big argument with the costume designer over whether or not the protagonist, Rose, should wear a hat. The designer originally designed Rose to wear a hat, but Cameron thought it looked silly and made her look less like a princess on the balcony. Cameron suggested that Rose should not wear a hat, but the costume designer insisted that women in 1912 always wore hats when going out. However, Cameron explained that Rose was a rebellious character, so it made sense for her not to wear a hat. He then threw Rose's hat into the ocean. As we can see in the movie, Rose is initially wearing a hat with a wide brim when she boards the ship, but she is not wearing any hat later in the film. Easter egg 10. 101-year-old Rose. The age of the elderly Rose in the final version of the film is 101, but they couldn't find an actress of that age to play the role. So, the makeup artist transformed the 86-year-old British actress Gloria Stewart into a 101-year-old woman through makeup techniques. It was a coincidence that this actress, like the protagonist Rose, also lived to be 100 years old before passing away. She was also the only person in the entire movie who was born before the sinking of the Titanic in 1912. Gloria Stewart was indeed afraid of riding in a helicopter in the film, so Cameron asked her to sit in a helicopter, took a photo of her, and then had her get inside the helicopter after landing. This made it look like she had just gotten off the helicopter. Stewart accepted Cameron's approach but still found this scene the most annoying and headache-inducing in the movie. Easter egg 11. Memorializing the Pomeranian. On the maiden voyage of the Titanic, the ship carried dogs, cats, chickens, and other birds. Any recorded animals carried on board needed to be purchased tickets, even canaries, which cost 25 cents. However, when the ship hit an iceberg and sank, only 3 dogs survived, including 2 Pomeranians and 1 Pekingese. At the beginning of the film, the 101-year-old Rose sees her nude drawing with the heart of the ocean on television, and quickly contacts the person responsible for finding the drawing. She then takes a helicopter to the ship to find him. When she lands, she is holding a Pomeranian to commemorate the Pomeranian that was on board the Titanic. Easter egg 12. Rose's collection of famous paintings. In the movie, after Rose boards the ship, there is a scene where she greets her servant to arrange her collection of paintings. She holds up a painting named Les Demoiselles d'Avignon painted by Pablo Picasso, which is now worth nearly $200 million and is considered the first work of art with a cubist tendency. The painting was created in 1907. This was, of course, a joke played by the director Cameron on the audience, because Les Demoiselles d'Avignon was not exhibited until 1916 and was not sold until 1922. It is unlikely that any of the passengers on the Titanic, which sank in 1912, knew about this painting. Cameron was sued for using Les Demoiselles d'Avignon in the film without permission and paid a copyright fee. The painting that Rose put in her bedroom was Dancer by the famous French Impressionist painter Degas, which appears several times in later scenes. Degas almost exclusively depicted happy dancers, which perfectly matched Rose's desired state. When Rose boards the ship and begins to decorate her room, there is also a famous painting by the Impressionist painter Monet called Water Lilies in the shot. When Jack paints Rose's portrait in her bedroom, he also sees the water lilies and they both admire Monet's color techniques. Additionally, there is also Cézanne's still life on the chair where Cal accuses Jack of stealing and confronts Rose, but it is not discussed. Of course, these famous paintings did not sink to the bottom of the sea as described in the film. According to Edward P. de Groot, a researcher of the Titanic, there were almost no works of art on the Titanic, let alone works by Picasso, Degas, and Monet. The only valuable artwork on board the ship came from Norman Wilkinson and was hung in the smoking room. Easter egg 13, White Star Line's logo. The White Star Line built the Titanic, but the company went bankrupt in 1935. Although all the tableware on board the ship was customized to match the 1912 style, after filming a dining scene, Cameron suddenly realized that the tableware should have had the White Star Line's logo on it. Cameron felt he had been careless and decided to reshoot everything for the sake of this meticulous detail. This cost $2 million. Easter egg 14, Real Beluga Caviar. In the scene where Jack and Rose have dinner in the first-class restaurant, the props department brought out some caviar. To make the scene more realistic, they provided the actors with real Beluga caviar, which is the most expensive type of caviar. Prices range from $3,500 to $5,000 per pound. Easter egg 15, the $1 million shot. In the beginning of the film, Jack takes to the bow of the Titanic and exclaims, "I'm the king of the world," as the camera gradually pans out to capture the grandeur of the entire ship. While this shot may seem straightforward and achievable with a helicopter, the reality is quite different. In fact, this iconic 10-second scene combines elements of live-action footage, model shots, computer-generated water, and numerous other state-of-the-art techniques that were groundbreaking at the time. And it costs nearly $1 million to produce. The primary objective of this scene was to provide audiences with a sense of the scale and magnificence of the ship, allowing them to empathize with the profound tragedy that unfolds as the film progresses. The unfathomable destruction of such a grand vessel is made all the more poignant when the audience has had the opportunity to appreciate its sheer size and beauty. Easter egg 16. Photo of a spinning top game. In the scene where Jack sneaks into the first-class cabin to look for Rose, a father teaching his son to play a spinning top game is captured on camera. This is actually a recreation of a real photo taken on board the ship on April 11, 1912 by Francis Brown. It shows first-class passenger Frederick Spedden and his 6-year-old son Douglas. Both survived the sinking. Easter egg 17. The story of Tír na Nog. In Titanic, as the ship sinks, an Irish mother is heard telling her children about Tír na Nog, the land of eternal youth and beauty. In Irish mythology, Tír na Nog can be reached by going underwater or across the sea. This story was not part of the original script but was suggested by other Irish actors and was fittingly placed here. The mother is comforting her children who will soon be immersed in water and transported to a land of happiness. Easter egg 18. Rose spits on her fiancé's face. When the Titanic hits an iceberg, Rose resolutely chooses to go back and search for Jack. However, her fiancé refuses to let her go, and in desperation, Rose spits a big mouthful of saliva on his face, leaving him shocked and standing still. This action seems illogical for a lady like Rose, but in fact, it echoes a scene at the beginning of the movie, where Jack, a commoner, taught her how to spit. But did you know? This action was actually an improvised performance by Kate Winslet. It was not in the script, and the actor playing her fiancé was also shocked. The strong shock on his face was a genuine reaction. The scene where Jack teaches Rose how to spit was also disliked by everyone on the set, including investors. Everyone tried to persuade James Cameron to delete the scene, but he stubbornly kept it. This scene can best demonstrate the character changes of two different social classes. Easter egg 19. All 150 background extras had characters and backstories. Every single one of the 150 background extras in Titanic the movie was assigned a character with a unique backstory. Titanic the ship had a massive number of people on board, and the movie had to deal with the challenge of representing them all through more than 150 actors playing passengers and crew members. However, director James Cameron pushed the boundaries of meticulousness by personally meeting with every extra and providing them with individual names and backstories. This attention to detail elevated the film's authenticity to an unprecedented level. By imbuing each actor with their own motivations and storylines, they transformed from mere props into distinct characters. Easter egg 20. Dance party in the third-class cabin. The dance party in the third-class cabin was the favorite scene of the entire crew. The scene was filmed for 10 hours, and after the shooting, everyone was not satisfied and kept the band and the music playing for another hour, singing and dancing. Kate Winslet recalled that this dance party in the third-class cabin was her favorite scene because she did not have to go into the water, and it was just pure fun, which made her feel very relaxed. However, in reality, the third-class accommodations on the Titanic were segregated by gender, meaning that men stayed in one area, while women stayed in another area. This means that the wild party described in the movie was impossible to happen. Easter egg 21, lie on that bed, couch. The nude scene between Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet was the first scene they shot together. In the original script, the dialogue was supposed to be lying on the couch when Jack was drawing Rose. However, DiCaprio was nervous and accidentally said, "over on the bed, lying on the bed," but quickly corrected himself and said, "no, on the couch." Director James Cameron commented, "There was no way to pre-plan that. They had to improvise something that blended nervousness, energy, and hesitation." This charming blooper added an extra layer of endearment to the already beloved character of Jack, and made the scene all the more memorable. Easter egg 22, Rose's sketch portrait. The pencil drawing of Rose in the movie was drawn by director James Cameron based on a photo that Kate Winslet provided of herself in a bikini. Cameron used his imagination to complete the rest of the portrait. Although Leonardo DiCaprio played a talented artist in the movie, he had no actual talent for drawing, so Cameron had to draw the portrait for him. In the scene, Jack is shown drawing with his right hand. However, Cameron is left-handed, so he had to reverse draw the portrait, which took some time. Additionally, no one questioned whether Cameron's 41-year-old hand looked like that of a 19-year-old. ABC News reported that the sketch portrait was sold for a staggering $16,000. It makes us wonder how Kate would feel knowing that a nude picture of her may be hanging in someone's living room. However, upon further reflection, it just comes off as creepy. Easter egg 23, Rose's old photos. Rose always brings her old photos with her when she is out. One of those photos shows a pose and expression reminiscent of Marilyn Monroe, hinting at Rose's profession as an actress. Another photo shows Rose standing next to an airplane with a big smile on her face, representing the freedom she finally gained, which is very different from the discussions of aristocratic etiquette on the Titanic. The third photo shows Rose sitting on a horse. This photo is significant because earlier in the movie, Jack promised to take Rose to the Santa Monica Pier and go horseback riding on the beach. At the end of the movie, when we see Rose's old photos again, one of them shows her riding a horse on the Santa Monica Pier. Rose remembers her conversation with Jack throughout the movie. Easter egg 24, The Heart of the Ocean. The diamond necklace featured in the movie, The Heart of the Ocean, was inspired by the world's largest 45.52-carat blue diamond, the Hope Diamond. There are rumors that this diamond is cursed and is a famous diamond of misfortune in history. It first appeared in 1909 and has always been accompanied by murder and robbery. It is an ominous object that is stained with blood. This cursed diamond has changed hands several times, and each owner has died mysteriously until it was donated to the Smithsonian Institution in the United States, and the curse was finally lifted. The jeweler Harry Winston donated the Hope Diamond to the Smithsonian Institution in 1958. He sent the fabled gem by registered first-class mail. This package carried the diamond on its trip from New York City to Washington, D.C. Of the $145.29 mailing price, only $2.44 was for postage. Easter egg 25, The right side of the model ship. In fact, the film's investors only built the right half of the ship. In history, the Southampton dock was actually on the left side of the ship. After the crew filmed this scene, they flipped the film and did a mirror image processing to swap the left and right sides. This scene was really a headache for the entire crew because everything was reversed, from the visible letters on the costumes and signs to the buttons on the crew members' clothing, and had to be flipped during editing. They also had to find ways to avoid revealing the mistake and make everything look normal. Easter egg 26, Beautiful rose-colored sunset. The scene where the ship is flying in the sky is a combination of real-life footage and computer-generated special effects. The stunning rose-colored sunset in the sky was not artificially created and was completely real. The actors didn't have time to rehearse, so some shots were slightly out of focus, but the beautiful sunset was a gift from God, and some parts of the scene were shot in one take. Director Cameron was amazed when he saw this scene, feeling that it was absolutely stunning. However, the close-ups of the male and female leads in this scene were filmed later. In post-production, details were added and special effects were enhanced, but the sunset scene on screen was real. Easter egg 27. Blood red suicide dress and lavender soaking dress. The evening gown worn by the female protagonist on the night of her suicide is known as the suicide dress. The film's costume designer, Deborah Scott, found a dress that was perfect for the outdoor scene and also conveyed the character's emotions, blood red. While searching for accessories to complement the dress, Scott discovered a glass bead necklace with a black glass bead in the center, which she instantly fell in love with and used for inspiration. The last dress Rose wears before the sinking of the ship is called the chiffon gradient dress or the soaking dress. The costume designer made sure that Rose could move freely in this dress, even when running or soaking in water. In the 87-minute scene that follows, Rose wears this lavender chiffon dress throughout. The costume designer made a total of 26 identical dresses for this scene. Lavender is often the color of bridesmaid dresses in Western culture, and this dress is a subtle reference to Rose marrying Jack and ultimately marrying the sea. Deborah Scott's work on Titanic won her the Academy Award for Best Costume Design. Easter egg 28. Boiler room. In the boiler room scene, we see workers shoveling coal into the furnaces to maintain the power of the Titanic, which looks impressive on screen. In reality, there were only 3 boilers on set. The film crew set up a large mirror, which reflected the scene to create the illusion of many more boilers. However, if you look closely, you can see 2 people performing the same action. The production designer for this film, Peter Lamont, first used this technique in Cameron's previous film, Aliens, to make a few hypersleep chambers look like there were more than 10. Peter Lamont worked on 18 James Bond films and received an Academy Award for production design for Titanic. Easter egg 29. Real dialogue. Many of the dialogues and conversations in the movie were taken from the testimonies of survivors from the British and American inquiries into the disaster. The director arranged for about 30 actors to recreate the actual words spoken by the real-life passengers and crew. For example, in one scene, two little girls say goodbye to their father. It's goodbye for a little while, only for a little while, which is a line from a survivor's father to his daughter. Another example is you hold mommy's hand. Be a good little girl, which was based on the words spoken by another survivor's father to his daughter. When Rose tries to commit suicide by jumping into the ocean, Jack tells her that it feels like 1,000 knives stabbing you all over your body. This line was actually spoken by a survivor who recounted the moment when the ship sank. Easter egg 30. A single shooting opportunity for the Grand Staircase. In the real historical record, one of the Titanic's famous identifying features was the Grand Staircase. The Titanic team went to great lengths to recreate this giant luxurious staircase, even hiring craftsmen from Mexico and the UK to create the ornate wooden panels, exquisite plasterwork, and railings. As a result, there was only one chance to film the subsequent scene of flooding, because after about 340,000 liters of water flooded the scene, the staircase would undoubtedly be destroyed and could not be redone. Easter egg 31. Stunt doubles during the sinking scene. Before the ship sank, Rose and Jack were fleeing inside the ship and were almost swallowed up by the sudden rush of seawater. Because this scene was quite dangerous, it was initially performed by stunt doubles, and then cutting-edge visual effects were used to superimpose the faces of Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet onto them. Unfortunately, the technology at the time was not mature enough. So if you look closely at their faces, you will notice that something is off. Rose's face looks very unnatural, as if it's about to come off. Easter egg 32. The watch and knife obtained from a card game. At the beginning of the movie, Jack is playing cards with his friend Fabrizio. In the end, they win tickets to board the Titanic, some money, a watch, and a knife. The watch shows the time as 11:53, so the two friends must hurry to catch the ship, which was originally scheduled to leave at 12 o'clock, just like the real one. Later in the film, when the ship is sinking, Fabrizio uses the same knife to cut the ropes of a lifeboat. Easter egg 33. The miracle surviving chef. In the movie, when everyone was busy evacuating, a chef seemed to only care about drinking alcohol. At the critical moment, he just climbed up the railing and let himself sink with the ship. In fact, this chef did exist. He was the chief baker of the Titanic, Charles John Jockin. Although he sank with the ship, he miraculously survived because he had drunk too much whiskey. He soaked in the sea water at a temperature of -2 degrees Celsius for 3 hours without much adverse effect from hypothermia. Easter egg 34. The elderly couple who lied in bed during the ship's sinking. As the Titanic was about to sink, an elderly couple snuggled up in bed, tightly embracing each other, quietly watching the seawater flooding into their room and waiting for death. This couple is not fictional but real. They are Isidore Straus and his wife, Ida Straus, who were co-founders of the famous Macy's department store and first-class passengers on the Titanic. Isidore had a chance to board a lifeboat but refused, saying, "I will not go before the women and children are saved." Although Ida was a woman with priority to evacuate, she refused to leave her husband, firmly telling him, "Where you go, I go." Easter egg 35. Floating wood. The floating wood that Rose lies on before being rescued was made from a real artifact discovered among the wreckage of a ship. The photo above shows the actual remains of a ship on display at the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic in Halifax, Nova Scotia. The handmade item is shaped like the door that Rose lays on after the ship sinks, which has caused debates over whether Jack could have fit on it as well. Easter egg 36. Hypothermic Kate. During the scene where Jack and Rose struggle to survive in the freezing ocean after the shipwreck, they cling to a door that is barely large enough for one person. Jack chooses to let Rose climb onto it while he remains fully submerged in the icy water, telling her, "You must live, Rose," before eventually sinking to the bottom of the ocean. The actress who played Rose, Kate Winslet, also experienced hypothermia and developed a fever on set due to the extremely cold water. She stated that the water on set was so abundant that the production crew couldn't control the temperature and that she was truly freezing at the time. Easter egg 37. The water tank isn't for peeing? Kate and Leo have openly admitted to peeing in the water tank on several occasions. During an appearance on the Rosie O'Donnell show, the host asked Kate if they went to the bathroom in the water tank, to which she replied, we did. Even James Cameron acknowledged in an interview with People magazine that while the cast was given plenty of bathroom breaks, it was likely that they were peeing in the water as well. It's a bit disheartening to think that while we were sobbing over Jack's death, Leo was relieving himself in the same water. It definitely puts a damper on the moment. Easter egg 38. The final scene's time. Towards the end of the film, Rose finally reunites with her beloved Jack in a dream sequence, where he smiles and extends his hand to her with a clock in the background. Upon closer inspection, the clock's hands are pointed at 2:20. In history, the Titanic sank at exactly 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912. This attention to detail is remarkable. Although the film runs for over 3 hours, did you know that it took 2 hours and 40 minutes from the moment the ship hit the iceberg until it completely sank? The sinking was not as fast as depicted in the movie, but one detail was very accurate. The ship struck the iceberg at 11:40 p.m., ship time, and disappeared from view at 2:20 a.m. Easter egg 39. Jack may have survived. Since the release of Titanic, many fans have believed that in the ending of the movie, Rose could have moved her body slightly to make more space on the floating door, so Jack could climb up and wait for rescue together, and survive. With the 25th anniversary of Titanic, director James Cameron appeared on the American TV show Good Morning America and personally conducted an experiment to solve the mystery that has lasted for many years. In the show, Cameron recreated the door from the movie and brought in 2 stunt actors with weights similar to Jack and Rose to perform the scene in a pool. Through the reenactment, they found that at a special angle, Jack actually had a chance to stay alive with Rose on the door until the rescue boat arrived. After the experiment, Cameron finally admitted, Jack may have survived. Easter egg 40. Description of the night sky in the original version. Because Titanic was promoted as a historically accurate movie, the audience was unforgiving about inaccuracies. One of the things pointed out as inaccurate was the night sky. When Rose was floating on the door, she looked up, but what she saw was not the sky that people saw in 1912. American astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson was not convinced with a star field in a particular scene and wrote an email to James Cameron in order to get the alignments changed, which was later accepted by the director. In the 2012 re-release, the night sky was adjusted. Easter egg 41. Who poisoned James Cameron's crew with PCP? During the final days of shooting in Halifax, Canada, the crew was wrapping up filming for the present-day portion of Titanic before heading to Mexico for the actual boat set. However, a sinister incident occurred during one of their last meals together. The catering company served a bowl of chowder, which most of the crew ate, unaware that it was laced with PCP, or angel dust, a dissociative hallucinogen. The drug sent all 60 crew members spiraling into a surreal and terrifying out-of-body experience, including director James Cameron. Nobody knew who had spiked the chowder, and to this day, the culprit remains a mystery. Easter egg 42. The mystery of J. Dawson. Let's clear up any confusion. The story of Titanic is a work of fiction. While James Cameron strived to make the event as authentic as possible, the love story between Rose and Jack is entirely fictional. Jack Dawson never existed, and his name was created by Cameron for the character. You won't find Jack Dawson and Rose DeWitt Bukater on any passenger list. Don't forget, Jack only won his ticket at the last moment. But there was a J. Dawson on the Titanic, but his life was very different from the one portrayed on the screen. There was even a Rose Amélie Icard traveling in first class. But she was not a wealthy socialite but a maid to one of the first-class passengers. Easter egg 43. Celine wasn't the first choice. My Heart Will Go On is a 1997 song recorded by the Canadian singer Celine Dion as the theme for the film Titanic. It was composed by James Horner, with lyrics by Will Jennings. James Cameron initially had his sights set on the renowned Irish singer Enya to compose the soundtrack for his epic film, Titanic. He believed that her unique sound would add an extra dimension to the project. However, the singer declined the offer, leaving Cameron in search of a new collaborator. He eventually turned to James Horner, with whom he had previously worked on Aliens, despite their history of clashing on that project. Horner's resulting work went on to become the highest-selling soundtrack in movie history. Imagine no Celine Dion song? What would have the Enya version sounded like? Easter egg 44. Jack never existed. There is an interesting theory that Jack never existed, and everything was just Rose's imagination. Specifically, Rose lived a very oppressive life, with her mother seeing her as a noble lady and strictly controlling her every move. Her marriage was arranged by her mother, and her fiancé Cal enjoyed controlling and dominating others, which made Rose hate her life. This caused Rose to develop symptoms of depression and suicidal tendencies. Just before Rose jumped off the ship, Jack appeared. The only purpose of Jack's existence seems to be to awaken Rose's hope for life and save her life. Jack said, "If you don't break free, you'll die." In short, the whole movie and the entire story are Rose's fantasy, as the story is told from old Rose's perspective. Easter egg 45. Original ending. In the original ending, Brock and Rose see old Rose standing on the railing at the stern. Rose shows them the heart of the ocean, which she has always held onto but never sold. She allows Brock to touch the heart of the ocean and tells him that life is priceless, before throwing it into the sea. Cameron thought that the story was over, and the audience was no longer interested in Brock, and had even forgotten about him, so he decided to delete this meaningless plot. In the end, Cameron chose a completely new ending, old Rose standing alone on the deck, throwing the heart of the ocean into the sea. Why did Titanic become a classic? It is precisely because of this ending. Rose promised Jack to live a good life, and in the end, just before Rose dies, she chooses to sink the heart of the ocean, meaning her heart is with Jack. My heart will go on. The final scene shows Rose lying in bed, already dead. Rose gave herself the best life to repay Jack's love. This is the most perfect imperfection in life and the best interpretation of love and life.